I love this Bulls team, guys. Look, I know I've said that a fair amount of times this season, and obviously there are times where I'm frustrated with the team, especially when they don't play with effort, but I love how hard these guys played tonight and how exciting they were to watch. This was right up there with one of the more exciting games that we have seen this season, and especially with the way that they played in the fourth quarter after having a somewhat lackluster third quarter where they allowed the Wolves to take the lead for a period of time. But what was so great about this win was the fact that the Bulls really need to start stacking wins against some of these teams that are in the middle tier of the league. And I actually thought this was going to be a loss for the Bulls. If you caught my weekly preview video, I had the Bulls losing to the Suns and the Wolves this week. But anyway, when you're shorthanded, you're really trying to buy time until your guys get healthy in Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, and Derrick Jones Jr. Like losing to teams against the Suns, the Sixers, you can kind of live with. Like, obviously you prefer to still win those games if you can, but those are games on the schedule that you can live with losing as long as you can win the games against teams like the Wolves, the Magic, the Thunder, the Pacers, the Hornets, etc. Because you need to stack as many of those wins as you can to remain competitive at the top of the East. Like I'm sure you've probably all seen, but most fans and analysts, even Bulls analysts, are predicting that the Bulls will likely fall in the standings while they wait to get healthy. And that still might end up being the case, but if they play the way that they did tonight, they'll be able to hold down the fort until their defensive core gets back, which they're going to need because as good as the Bulls were tonight in terms of shooting lights out on offense, their defense is still pretty mediocre. It has gotten better the past few games, at least with the level of effort on that end of the floor, but it's nothing like it was when you had Caruso and Lonzo Ball in the lineup. But anyway, let's talk about this game. Now, like I said, I actually thought that this game was going to be a challenge for the Bulls just because the Timberwolves have been playing pretty well recently. They've got a young, quick, athletic team that plays scrappy, which the Bulls have struggled against teams in the past that play a similar style of basketball. And to be honest, I thought that the Bulls were going to have a problem with Karl-Anthony Towns going up against Vučević, but Vuč really ended up having one of the best games of his season, and actually a lot of guys had some of the best games tonight in the season, like Javonte Green, who had a career high tonight with 23 points on insane efficiency, shooting 10 for 13 and 3 for 4 from 3. Javonte was also just doing what he does best and being everywhere on both ends of the floor when you need him to be, hustling on every play, fighting for offensive rebounds, running up the floor in transition for a highlight level dunk. Like that last dunk of his though was pretty scary, and I know he looked okay despite not coming back into the game, but fingers crossed it was just a bad fall and he'll be okay. The last thing you want to see is to have another key rotational player and defender needing to miss additional time. We'll have to wait and see what comes of that. I've been refreshing my Twitter feed to see if Casey Johnson has said anything from the post-game presser, but nothing thus far as I'm recording it anyway. But this was an incredible game for Javonte because it's not even just the fact that yes, he scored 23 points tonight, but it's the fact that you can just see the change of energy in the team when he's on the court. Like, it's that noticeable. I mean, the more you think about this, the fact that the front office made a trade for this guy really as a filler, and they strike a gem in getting him and then re-signing him for an incredibly low value is amazing. Anyway, I hope Javonte is okay, but wanted to start with him because he was absolutely great tonight. Then, of course, DeMar DeRozan. Like, here's the thing. The Bulls didn't have a good third quarter. And they closed out the quarter decently well. I think a couple of threes from Coby, who was awesome, by the way. I'll talk about him as well. But I believe they finished the quarter going up by 1. But overall, it wasn't a great quarter. With some mental lapses, bad turnovers. Like, the guys were still playing with effort, but they just were making mistakes and they weren't hitting their shots. And the Wolves were taking advantage as a result. But the great thing about having a guy like DeMar DeRozan on your team and knowing just how confident he is going into the fourth quarter, and also just the fact that DeRozan rarely plays poorly in the fourth quarter. Like, I'm sure there have been games here and there, maybe a game or two this season where he hasn't played that well in the fourth, but for the most part, he has been absolutely dominant in the fourth. And tonight was no exception. The guy was a straight assassin in the fourth quarter. Like, we've almost become so accustomed to him being so lethal in the fourth that every shot he puts up, we expect it to go down. DeRozan, yet again, another 30-plus point night. I believe that's the 5th game in a row for him. He puts up a game-high 35 points on 14 for 22 shooting, 7 for 7 from the line, 6 rebounds and 6 assists. They flashed a statistic up during the game showing that only 4 players in the league averaging over 27 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, and that was Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Giannis, and DeMar DeRozan. Pretty incredible company for a guy who was thought to be past his prime after leaving Toronto. DeMar also had 0 turnovers tonight, which was a stark contrast from his last game in which he had 5 turnovers. Now, I mentioned Vučević earlier. I really thought Vučević was going to have his hands full tonight going against Karl-Anthony Towns. And don't get me wrong, Cat had a good game, but Vučević was just better. Vuč was making every shot that he was throwing up. Again, he focused on scoring inside, which is what Vuč is so good at. He didn't attempt a single 3 in the first half. If you remember, he didn't have a single 3 at all in the game against the Hornets. Tonight, he was 11 for 14 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. Again, something I've been talking about all season that Vučević doesn't get enough credit for is his passing ability for a big man. And over the past month or so, he's averaging over 5 assists per game, which is incredible. Then our rookie Ayo Dosunmu, who was available to play after missing the last game, being out due to the concussion protocol. I didn't expect him to be getting 42 minutes tonight. I thought Billy Donovan would kind of ease him back in, but hey, we needed it because Ayo was awesome on both ends of the floor, doing an incredible job on D'Angelo Russell. He was running the floor, getting guys involved, had himself another double-double tonight, putting up 14 points on 6 for 7 shooting, 4 rebounds and 10 assists, and 3 steals. He was a plus 18 in box plus minus in those 42 minutes. The kid just continues to show how great he is when you look at his on-court, off-court numbers and how well the Bulls play when he's on. Zach LaVine, this was an off night for him. Not a good game for Zach, and it does seem like he's still struggling from the back spasms. You even saw him wincing a bit after finishing a dunk. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if, the Bulls decide to sit him out for tomorrow's game, given the fact that it's a back-to-back. They are playing against the Thunder, who are without SGA, so you probably don't even need Zach. I wouldn't even be surprised if DeMar DeRozan doesn't play either, but then again, the more I think about it, the Bulls are so short-handed. If you also sit Zach and DeMar, it may not be the best decision. But Zach tonight, he wasn't making the best decisions on the court, turning the ball over. He was having a hard time finding a stroke. He only had 12 points tonight on 5 for 14 shooting, 4 rebounds and 6 assists. And he was also losing his man very frequently on defense, and it wasn't even a strong offensive player in Patrick Beverley, which, by the way, speaking of Patrick Beverley, that guy was smiling a ton and trash talking with the guys tonight. I just get this sense that he really wants to play for his hometown at some point before his career is over. And hey, I'll take it. A guy that hustles and plays hard and gets into his opponent's head. Didn't work for him tonight. It's clearly DeMar DeRozan was unfazed by him. He did do a good job guarding Zach when he was on him, though. And then the only guy who really contributed off the bench tonight, Coby White. I mean, one of the more streaky players in the NBA. Dude went off tonight, especially in the second half, and was really the catalyst that enabled the Bulls to take over in the fourth quarter. He was feeling it from deep, was 6 for 10 from 3, 8 for 12 overall, 22 points off the bench. Not only that, but Coby played solid defense tonight as well. And in a game where we really needed his production in general, we're going to need his production off the bench while we wait for the rest of the team to recover from their injuries. So it was great to see Coby have a game like this. Overall, the Bulls were incredible tonight on offense. They posted a season-high 134 points, shooting an insane 63% from the field, which I feel like is a career high as well. 45% from 3. They're starting to show some consistency now with their outside shot, which is great. And then, of course, the ball movement was beautiful tonight. It's what makes this team so fun to watch, especially when they're getting up and down the court in transition for alley-oops. The Bulls had 32 assists tonight, which that 30 assist mark is always kind of my personal marker for me for a good game where team basketball was played, and the Bulls are exceptionally better when they do so. So anyway, a great win. Bulls are back at it tomorrow night at the UC going against the shorthanded Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder gave the Bulls a scare in the last game in Oklahoma City and almost stole one from us. Let's hope that doesn't happen this time around. My personal thoughts is without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it's not going to be a problem, but you never know. It is the NBA. Any team can come up with a win. As always, I'll have a live game chat for that both here and on the Discord. Until then, guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.